Hello, the channel. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone had a good international break. Is that an actual thing? A good international break? Anyways, welcome back. It's been a wee break. Not really had as much on in terms of rewards, or just not really as much interest, obviously, in the international weeks generally. So it's always a good chance to chill a wee bit. I'm not saying there's been a lot of chill on Twitter and the Discord and everything, which I've now actually left, to be honest. So there we go. That's probably for the better. So on to this game week, we have Celtic back. So in a wee minute, we'll have a look at the Celtic predicted lineup. We'll have the game week preview, bit of lineup selections, etc. as well. Before that, just a quick recap on what's been happening, and then we'll get into the preview. So first and foremost, no real big sort of results over international week. Loads of good teams and players out, but yeah, nothing really coming together. I'm sure everybody will really feel that way. Picked up a few bits of essence, etc. in the box. So 4-5-5 in terms of the limited side of things. 4-2-5 in terms of rare. So still hanging fire, obviously, for those tier 1 plus pools. I will reevaluate it after that. I mean, obviously, as the season goes on, card values are dropping a bit, which makes a lot of sense in end season because there's less of it in the season to go. And then super rare, we're just kind of doing what everybody does at most scarcities and getting to the tier 5 plus and hoping for a bit of a lucky pool. So in terms of quick recap on the game weeks, sort of first version of international football. So yeah, $60, a couple of boxes, wasn't really too bad at all. Kelleher and Liam Scales coming up trumps there, which is a bit unusual, but there we go. Always take it. In terms of the weekend, again, probably had more sort of chances, etc. A good few sort of boxes again, but loads of sort of general carnage. So $30, one relegation as well. Kasper Schmeichel played unbelievably well, really, really good. Over and above that, Bellingham got 100, but he was kind of let down by the rest of his teammates, unfortunately. Nothing else really of note. And then in terms of the current midweek, as I say, just kind of struggling to get things to come together. I mean, that's a good example. Guy Okerez get 100, Messi huge score as well, and captain, and then Diego Gomez gets sent off from the bench. So he was like off, and he was on like 40 or 50 or whatever, which probably been all right in this team's at midweek, and then he managed to get sent off. So that's actually still got a chance of carding because of the two really quite high scores. Lots of DMPs, obviously. It was quite difficult with it being the last round of the international break, and a lot of teams had already qualified. I thought Sweden would actually rotate a wee bit, and they were one of the teams didn't rotate, and they smashed up Azerbaijan 6-0. So anyways, on to the weekend. It is superb to have international game week out the way, and have some club football back. How good is this? Amazing. So let's go through it. Let's do the overall preview, and then we'll talk specifically about Celtic, obviously, for the lineup there. So Bayern Munich against Augsburg, 3.828 XG and 54% clean sheet percentage. So yeah, Bayern Munich looks as if they're finding a bit of form again. So that doesn't make much. Doesn't surprise me much. Sorry, 90% win percentage. Ajax against Zwolle. Ajax are an interesting team. I mean, they're on a lot better form, to be honest. 2.95 XG is quite high for them this season. I wouldn't say it's high for Ajax and PSV in general, but Ajax have been up there with the PSV type fixtures. PSV 2.89 XG and 57% clean sheet percentage. So even with the Joey Veerman been out, they're still getting some pretty good results. But you never know, they could have a difficult spell as well. And I think there was a recent game where they won like 2 or 3-0, and although they won, they didn't put in overwhelming scores, maybe except Buscagli. Leverkusen against Heidenheim, so 2.73 XG and 53% clean sheet percentage. Leverkusen have found a lot, not hit or miss. I mean, that's probably the wrong word, but they've not been quite as good as last season. Not really keeping clean sheets as well, which is obviously a bit of a disaster for Sorare if you're running quite a big sort of stack of players, or you're running the defensive players. Stuttgart, 2.72 XG. Interestingly, lower clean sheet percentage. Bochum, not very good this season, to be honest. Stuttgart, really pretty good team as well. Bodo Glimt have got a few licensed players, so the guys like, Hogayev, Jen, etc. and odds have been pretty poor. Liverpool against Southampton, big sort of first good fixture in the EPL. So Liverpool away at Southampton. Firstly, is it going to be Alisson or Kelleher? Trent's was injured and pulled out of the England squad. Will he be back? Virgil van Dijk was left at the last home game, although I think actually that was managing minutes for him. You'll see obviously Verbruggen, Van Hecke, etc. never started either. I think they were just a bit more kind to him, given they'd got to where they needed to go to. So I'll be keeping a keen eye on all this sort of lineup predictions. Rangers against Dundee United. So yeah, Rangers licensed now, 2.44 XG, 52% clean sheet percentage. Rangers are at home. They do tend to do better there. Really, really poor away record this season. Dundee United are actually doing pretty well. So, there could be an upset there. I wouldn't be banking on a clean sheet there, although 50 to 53% is pretty high. I think Casson Weirjo got injured in internationals, so I think that more points towards Tavernier starting anyway, although he seems to be getting rotated a lot. But he doesn't play with his international team. Paris Saint-Germain against Toulouse. Again, PSG seem to be doing some really wild rotations at times, particularly ahead of Champions League games, etc. Feyenoord against Heerenveen. Heerenveen been pretty poor at points this season as well. So 2.38 XG and 48% clean sheet percentage. So just as a reminder, anything sort of up towards 50% is pretty good chance of a clean sheet, really, in all honesty. Man City against Tottenham, that's going to be a really good fixture. I think that'll be a fun game. I mean, not saying they're under fire managers, but, Ange is getting a bit of stick, and Man City have not been in good form, so that's going to be proper interesting. Wee bit of a connection there as well, because Ange, used to manage team in Japan, which is part of the City group, and then there was a wee bit of a connection to Celtic, where I think Guardiola or somebody actually recommended Ange to Celtic. So, they've got a good relationship, but, it's going to be a good game, I think. 5:30 on Saturday from memory. Trabzonspor there against Dana. Rosenborg against Sarpsborg. Rosenborg look a bit better. Tagzef is signed or agreed to sign for Nashville. Pretty interesting. And Kevin Denke going to Cincinnati. Pretty interesting as well. Celtic against Hearts. So 2.29 XG, 44% clean sheet percentage. We'll come back to that a wee bit more in a wee minute. We always like on the big weekends to break things down a wee bit. So obviously champion wise, we've covered most of these games. Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, Stuttgart. So interestingly, top three fixtures are kind of in the Bundesliga this weekend. So that is very interesting, although it doesn't always play out, like that. Anything else standing out here? Arsenal, pretty good clean sheet percentage there against Nottingham Forest at home. Atletico Madrid, 59% clean sheet percentage there as well. Breaking it down into the English Premier League, actually. I'm not going to go over La Liga and the Bundesliga, because we already talked about Bundesliga, and I'm fed up talking about Real Madrid. In fact, we'll talk about La Liga. That's a load of nonsense. So Liverpool against Southampton kind of looks like the best fixture. I mean, Liverpool were really good this season. Man City, Tottenham, we've talked about. Chelsea against Leicester is interesting. 2.16 XG. Chelsea have been a wee bit leaky, but Leicester have not been that good this season either. So interesting. Arsenal, you would hope they would tighten up. I actually got David Raya in an FPL, and I'll pay him a bit extra in terms of the actual budget there, and he's not kept the clean sheet since. So sorry, Raya holders. And then I bought him on Sorare, and I played him for Spain, and he got an early leg to go. So it's the way it works out sometimes. Newcastle against West Ham, 2.07 XG. Isak looks pretty good just now, but robbed against Azerbaijan. Man United against Ipswich. Obviously, Angerum coming in will be a bit of a boost. Aston Villa against Crystal Palace. Picked up some Aston Villa players recently as well. La Liga, so we've got Barcelona against Celta. Barcelona interested. I mean, Yamal's injured. I think Lewandowski might still be injured as well. So, could they find it a bit more difficult? Not a very high clean sheet percentage there. Atletico Madrid with the highest clean sheet percentage, although don't really put in, generally speaking, good sort of SO5 defensive scores. Just the way that the style of play, don't always like dominate the ball. And we've got Real Madrid against Leganes, 1.88 XG and 50% clean sheet percentage. So I think Courtois should be back. You know, Mbappe obviously should be a bit fresher. Hopefully, he'll be feeling a bit better. Sort of falling out with France, really, you know. So like everybody with Sorare, really falling out with the fridge. Anyway, moving on. And Getafe, a bit of a standout there, 58% clean sheet percentage. I think Soraya is still playing for them as well. Over in Challenger, a bit interesting because, you know, there's no Sporting, there's no PSV, etc. this weekend. So, you know, that's maybe one to target if you're, you know, want to take the risk that PSV Eindhoven will not like completely dominate. I don't know. I think I just talked a little rubbish there. No Sporting, no Benfica, no Porto, obviously Portuguese Cup. So the top fixtures there: Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, etc. Could be a good weekend to maybe try something a bit different. You know, pretty good fixture for Antwerp against Dender, who aren't really that good. MLS teams tend to be a bit further down. But, you know, LA Galaxy pretty capable against Minnesota as well. And then in contender, what's happening there? So, you know, Bodo Glimt, Rangers, Rosenborg and Celtic. No huge surprise there. Further down, Zenit don't have many, or don't have any in-season cards. Salzburg against Lask. Salzburg really been hit or miss. Nothing else a huge sort of standout there in terms of certainly XG, etc. I think there's still some games on the K-League, etc. But, you know, they've got Ulsan, I think have got like games which are coming up. Don't know if that shows the screen. Lerdinho, chose your lane and stay in it. So there we go. I'm not promoting Lerdinho and it's Haber, that was just a wee random pop-up. So on to the Celtic prediction. So let's look ahead to that. I've had this sort of on the site and obviously it just comes up when the preview is available, but I've had this on and very quite interesting to review it after International Week. Moved myself over because I was right in the middle of Mattjar in his comments. So, do you think Scales is no longer a starter this season now then? No, I don't think he is actually. So, Trusty's been pretty good. Trusty played in the Big Cup semi-final against Aberdeen, played against Leipzig, played really well. For me, the best centre-back pairing is Trusty and Carter Vickers, so your Scales holder, that is not what you want to hear. Playing pretty well against England in the international break, so he played a pretty good first game. He was doing pretty well against England, then he gets sent off, conceded a penalty, so you're obviously against tough opposition, but that's nothing to do with the Celtic manager's decision. So let's go for things. So Kasper Schmeichel, 95%, really good for Denmark, put in an amazing score midweek. Number one, would only really be injury, keep him out, no news of that. Alistair Johnson, 95%. I might downgrade that slightly. Just he played last night for Canada, although he only played 60 minutes. So I guess there's always a wee risk that with all the travelling, etc., it might be rotated. This run of games we've got, so it's Hearts on Saturday night. Then we've got Champions League midweek, and then the next weekend's Ross County at home, and then midweek is Aberdeen away. So looking at those fixtures, unless people come back tired or come back with injuries, I think the real game that will be targeted for rotation is Ross County at home. You know, Hearts away is a tough fixture. I know Hearts are more down the bottom, but they're in Europe. Well capable of getting a result against anybody. Played pretty well at Ibrox last game. I watched that on the Sunday night. They played okay, so definitely can cause some issues. Carter Vickers in 90%. I don't know why he's in 90% then and again at 40%. I'm going to have to update that. So he's not 130%. I've just noticed that mistake, so I'll update that after we're finished. The reason I've got him in at 90% is he was left out the last game, so he was just basically rested against Kilmarnock based on the pitch and all that sort of stuff, and he didn't go with USA, so I think he'll start in that position. Trusty and Scales say Trusty looks as if he's pretty much cemented himself being Rodgers' signing. Celtic try to play with a high line often, and Trusty's pace is kind of important to that. So yeah, I mean he was away with USA. I guess that can be taken into account travelling wise. Scales didn't have to play full games, so he sent off, and it was only down in England, so that's in his favour. But I'd be surprised if it isn't Trusty and Vickers unless we get any news. Greg Taylor looks as if he's sort of edged that position against Valley at the moment. Wee bit harsh on Valley because he played pretty well when Taylor was out, but Taylor started the sort of bigger games. Valley did start the semi-final against Aberdeen, so that was an interesting one. So that just does show that there might be some games where Valley definitely will start. Could be a case of seeing Valley here and then Taylor playing against Club Brugge midweek. That's why I'm not putting this a really, really high percentage on Greg Taylor, but based on who started the recent games, got to say Taylor's still the number one left back apart from rotation. Midfield wise, so Cal McGregor 95%, he doesn't play for Scotland anymore, so he's had a nice rest. So unless there's any real injury issues, he's going to start. Arne Engels 85%. Engels got in the full Belgium squad, so that was really good for him. And he played both games. The only concern there is, obviously, the last international break he went away, a bit of training, played some minutes, but didn't play the full games. So, being a sort of box-to-box midfielder, he'll have put in a bit of energy there. I think that what will happen is he'll start this game. Maybe his minutes will be managed later on if Celtic are in a position to do so, or need to change things tactically. Then we go from there. But he's a key player to Rodgers and the system, etc. And I'd be a wee bit surprised if he doesn't start, if I'm honest. Rio Hatate 80%. Again, Hatate, Maeda and Furuhashi were all away with Japan. So playing against China, bit of a long flight back, etc. That's the only real question mark. You could see some rotation in midfield, honestly. I will update these percentages once I think about it more, get a bit more news, and once I realise that you can't have 130% for Carter Vickers. So I'm going to have to change that. 2 minutes. It was actually annoying me, so I've just changed it just now. So, there we go. Up front, Furuhashi, I've given him the edge over Ida. Usually I would say that Ida's maybe slight favourite to start away from home. He certainly has been used more away from home, but he did withdraw from the Ireland squad with his sort of nose issue. I think it was sort of broken nose. So might be a case of Ida could start if he's recovered, or maybe Furuhashi starts and then his minutes are managed ahead of the Champions League home game against Bruges. I think Furuhashi will be the number one candidate to start at home against Bruges. So it's kind of either or here. And I think the thing is, unless Ida's out, then usually Furuhashi and Ida both get game time. So if you don't own like a Nicholas Kuhn, I don't know why at this stage, because the guy's been unbelievable. Like if you can afford one or whatever, then I would say you should try and get him. But if you don't, you want to go with another forward, then both should get game time. Nicholas Kuhn 90% over Forest. I mean, Nicholas Kuhn's talk of him been called up to the Germany squad. Nagelsmann specifically mentioned him, but he wasn't in the squad over international break, and yeah, he should have had a good rest. So hopefully, all good there. And then Daisen Maeda, I'll maybe revise that percentage to 90%. He did get some game time against China, which is good for him. I'm pleased because obviously Hatate and Furuhashi and Maeda going halfway across the world. Selfishly from a Celtic fan's point of view, we'd probably just not want them to play so they get a rest, but they've travelled all the way over there, and realistically, for their morale's good for them to get some minutes based on that. So that's the overall synopsis. I wouldn't rule out rotation. Remember, it is after an international break, which nobody really likes, and one of the reasons people don't like it, obviously, is because it sometimes has an effect on the fixtures afterwards when people have had long travels or whatever. So following up on that amazing technical advice of or whatever, whatever that is, getting back to the spreadsheets. Reminder, this is from Sorare Probabilities. Egal provides a spreadsheet. We were previously on Predictorify, and if you like the predictions and everything there, I only cover Celtic here, but Predictorify does cover champion, challenger, contender. You can sign up on the full sort of package per month, or if you only play a specific region, there's region only packages available as well. It's only like I think like $2.49 or $2.99 or whatever a month for like Contender, for example, which I think is actually really good value based on all the information you get. If you're interested in that, please use the code McBridace because that does help the channel, which is probably lost money again this year. But anyway, that's fine. But we really was arsed about that. There would be no channel. So moving on. So Sorare probabilities provide this spreadsheet. What I've pulled up now is actually my own players. So we'll have a quick look at that before we have a chat about doing some lineup predictions, etc. Or not lineup predictions, lineup selections. We just looked at the prediction. So Bart Verbruggen projected 100. I think the stats suggest he's going to be busy. 22% clean sheet percentage for Brighton, so pretty interesting. Mark Flecken, I don't know how he's at 26% clean sheet percentage because Brentford have not kept clean sheet all season. So that's probably a touch high at 26%, but again, expected to get some AA. Anyone else standing out there? Robert Sanchez, kind of interesting one for Chelsea. Dominic Ryman projected 89. Maitov again projected 83. So a lot of these are sort of kind of what I would describe as risk reward. Obviously, if you get a team at home and it's like a better chance of a clean sheet, then the issue there is that they don't always face shots, so they're not really going to get any AA. So, Kabisco around about 60, which, is that going to be enough to win? That's the interesting thing. Aston Oxborough, a guy I picked up recently, could be somebody good to pick up for upcoming Contender, etc. People will probably start looking at goalkeepers and things again because, obviously in Contender, Japan and South Korea, etc. are ending. Ross Laidlaw there, again, pretty decent at home. Moving through to defence, so see there's not really many sort of Celtic players up here. Again, away at Hearts, that sort of makes sense, actually, to be honest. May not dominate the ball as much, maybe a tougher game in terms of duels. So Mark Pubel for Almeria, they really had missed them. Trauner's an interesting one, see earlier firing a pretty good fixture. Martin Moorman, I think I've just got limited on Moorman. Calafiore, interesting, could be ready to start again soon, so he's recorded as a knee injury but might be back. I think Ferdi Kadioglu is injured actually at the moment. I don't expect him to be available for the weekend anyways, but if he's back sooner than expected, then that would be really good. Midfield wise, Luke McCowan is a Celtic player and I think that's a bit optimistic. I don't think he'll start anyway against Hearts. Norgard, interesting one, Upburn 87. Anyone else standing out? So Rodrigo's injured. Lennon Miller actually could be a Celtic target, so that's pretty interesting. Charles de Ketelaere, I'm not sure whether he'll start or not actually. Didn't go with Belgium, but might just be one of those where people are just sort of aiming at protecting themselves a wee bit as well. Up front, some interesting ones there. Keane, Lewis, Potter. So it does look as if the sheet fancies some Brentford performances. Danny Welbeck's pretty good this season. Interesting. Madueke's there. Got Jorginho Rutter. Topi Keskinen's an interesting one for Aberdeen as well. Pretty impressed with him. I watched the friendly actually. Finland played against England and I thought Keskinen caused England some issues. If it wasn't a friendly, it was a Nations League game. So it kind of jumped up friendlies. Pretty interesting. Brahim Diaz back for Real Madrid, so that's kind of interesting with Rodrigo injured. He's going to play that more advanced position, a guy who does score pretty well, to be honest. So there we go. Ben Doak, I was going to mention Ben Doak, he was superb for Scotland. Really, really good. Just unbelievable performances. Roasted Josco Guardiola, who's obviously a really, really good player as well. So let's see what we've got on in terms of the weekend and then see if we can start having a wee look at selections. I do much prefer this sort of page in terms of actually going through the what's on, if that makes sense. The other page is kind of good as an overview, but you're going down a bit more sequentially, if that's even a word. I don't know. It's been a long video already, 25 minutes. There we go. So it's Serie A specials running. Not a special I would play myself, I don't think. Don't really have enough Serie A cards. It's nice to see that for Serie A, and I've seen there was a good few bundles and everything being auctioned as well, which makes sense, sell into the demand of that. We've got the Premier League and everything back as all the in-season stuff. Classic wise, we've also got the Catenaccio special. So basically, you've got to use the extra position as a defender. Doesn't look as if there's any real other requirements there. Rewards wise, so in limited there's 15 stars, pretty decent. In rare we have 3 stars. Again, I think this is an all-star format as well, which is, it's got a variation on all-star being a weekend, but without obviously any form of cap. And then we do have a star super rare as well. So yeah, basically, if you fancy playing another sort of defender, it's quite interesting. There's different ways you could play that. You could play it by picking a team that's quite a strong chance of a clean sheet or good defender scores. Celtic, for example, do score pretty well. But, if you pick Schmeichel and Alistair Johnson and Carter Vickers and then the clean sheets burst, then that's a big penalty. So more risk reward. Or do you use a defender in the last position that's somebody who takes set pieces or whatever? Obviously I don't own him, but like a Hakimi type, I think he's been taking set pieces. If he's not, his AA's been outrageous. And then we've all got all the usual stuff like the under 23s, and then we've got this final VIP sort of rest of Europe type thing here as well. So this is a sort of free play comp, but I've seen a few people mention this. I think the reason the rewards and everything are down here for this is it's like, minimum 4 common cards, but you get 20% increase for 1 card. So I think what Sorare are trying to do is get people into the game, right? So, see this really good competition. They can still play it if they've got 5 common cards, but does actually encourage them to put in a limited card as well. So it's maybe a bit the transition. Some people might argue that there's issues elsewhere in the game for rewards and they could be used elsewhere. I do get that as well, but you can use a limited card there as well, and that's like basically players permitted for Premier League, Bundesliga, Serie A, French League, and La Liga. So if you want to go like Courtois and Mbappe and Bruno Fernandes and all that sort of stuff, you can just pick 5 sort of stars, but it's not easy to put 5 good players together, in all honesty. So anyways, in terms of lineup selections, etc., probably just going to do Celtic and leave it at that. I know a lot of people often like me to do like different selections and all that sort of stuff, and I did say obviously a lineup builder as well, but I think I'm giving a lot of information on lineups. The problem with doing this video a couple of days before is that these lineups are probably going to change a lot, like closer to time, right? So, in terms of constructing or building lineups, like there's still a lot of variables between now, Wednesday, and Friday, So, in terms of Celtic, what would I do for this weekend? So, it's quite a tough away game. Obviously going to be Kasper Schmeichel in goals. On pretty good form. I mean, just like it's been really good. Excellent signing. Hope he plays for a couple of years. We'll see if he actually does. Move myself over a wee bit there as well because it's right in the middle of next game week starts, and now I'm on select your defender right in my noggin. That's just the way the software works. Defence. It's quite hard to see by Alistair Johnson. As I said, though, he's away with Canada just now, and you could do something a bit different and go for Cameron Carter-Vickers. This is actually in Classic, so didn't actually mean that. I suppose I'm just going to pick like what I would pick in season here. Midfield wise, is there anything really jumping out from contender region? I mean, Barco's been excellent. If you've got a Barco limited or whatever, then dropping him into midfield would be a good shout. I think I wouldn't put anybody off that. Cal McGregor's probably the safest pick. I mean, Ingles been a bit more hit or miss. Could be a game where he hits, but a bit more hit or miss. Up front, if you're not picking a Celtic stack, Berardi's a really good shot. I mean, look at the scores this guy's putting in, right? He's had an injury, etc. 73, 77, 42, then he was left out. Probably just a wee bit of reaction after the injury. 93 and 78. So, home against Salernitana, pretty good fixture. Cezinha is an interesting one. You definitely could go with Cezinha contender. I mean, I think he's back. He looks like he's back from injury. And then they are guaranteed to be in the relegation playoffs now. So, how seriously does he take that? Is it just a case of getting the fitness up? Nicholas Kuhn's well rested, been awesome. So, he could go in the forward or the extra position. In terms of defence, if you're going for the Catenaccio competition, you could, if you're running Celtic guys, maybe go with like Carter Vickers and Trusty. I think Johnson should start. Taylor's a bit more of a question mark, I think, at left back. Interesting one. And if you want to run, a Celtic stack, if you don't have like the high XP, you think, well, I just don't want to just run 5 Celtic players because, I can't really beat the stacks that have got a bit more in there, then I would definitely think guys like Domenico, Berardi, etc. would be a good shout. In terms of the English Premier League, etc., which, as I said, I'm not really going to be playing the Serie A special, so lineup building wise, for EPL, I'm still in like divisions 4 and 5. I mean, Brighton to Glory's been a disaster. Brighton's just actually Brighton. They're a pretty good fixture away at Bournemouth, so could score some goals there. So that's an interesting one. I'll probably, like, if I'm going to be using those guys more, like, sort of play them in Champ. So I do have a D1 entry in Champ, which is obviously significantly better in terms of cash and everything. You look at rewards compared to D4, $1,500 for first, So hope Alisson's back. Really good to see him back, though I'm not going to be playing him here. Martinez, interesting one at home to Crystal Palace, definitely. Robert Sanchez against Leicester, so Leicester seem to be pretty good at the moment in terms of scoring goals, but not winning many games, so maybe you'd fancy them to get a goal at home against Chelsea. Could risk Verbruggen. I picked up David Raya recently, and I think this is probably one of his better chances of getting a clean sheet. I do think Liverpool, Everton are a wee bit hit or miss as well. Just thinking Liverpool there, Everton, Liverpool. So I'll probably go with go with the kind of stats and go with something along the lines of like Raya, Big Gabriel. He always kind of pops up with like goals from set pieces, etc. Matt O'Reilly is a real interesting one, so he's going to be in contention for Brighton soon. Definitely thinking about getting him into some lineups. A lot of guys like Caicedo, have had a lot of travelling, so that's going to be quite interesting in terms of after the international break. Even like King and Lee's been away with South Korea as well. Enzo Fernandez come back to a bit of form, so that's pretty interesting. Again, with Toma, although he was left out second game for Japan as well, so pretty interesting. Elise would probably be a bit of a standout against Augsburg at home. I'd probably be tempted to use like a Musiala or a Wirtz in here. I mean, they were both kind of rested a bit. What I see if Cole Palmer and Saka, etc. is back, you look at all these potential injury type things here, So we've got Mbeumo, Saka, Visa, Cole Palmer. So there's going to be a lot of research being done in lineups, if I'm honest. Tim Kleindienst at home to St. Pauli's a pretty good fixture as well. He should be like the buzzing really. After getting games for Germany, so ultimately that's probably going to be one of his goals. And obviously, like Musiala, I think is okay. So something like this would look pretty cool, obviously. And it's not too stacky, for want of a better word. Obviously I've come in really late for Arsenal, so I'm going to have a wee look at that and do a bit of explanation and lineup building and stacking, and then we'll call it a day. So in terms of what's been happening for the gallery, etc. I don't just spend my whole life moaning on Twitter. That's just a joke, by the way. It's just a joke. Sometimes I also moan in Discord. I'm not on Discord anymore. So anyway, moving on. Picked up a Matthias Rees and Hujulman to be in with the Sporting collection. So he's kind of building that up. Denke. Interesting with Kevin Denke is confirmed to Cincinnati. This Cercle Bruges card will be in season for when the MLS starts. So if you want to get ahead of the game, I think this is a reasonable tip. I think Denke will be very good there as well. I think he'll score a lot of goals in MLS because he's a real strong striker. Does sound like Brendan Rodgers at pace, power, intensity. I think he'll be good there. Honestly, Cincinnati do usually score a good few goals. I'm interested to see if Luciano Costa's still there or not. Sesko and Taylor picked up. Michael Pompey was selling a few cards, decided just to get the rookie cards. And then obviously I picked up these Arsenal guys, and that was why I was wanting to have a chat about strategy. So if you look at the XP on them, 9.5, 9, Saliba 11.5, and Raya 11.5 as well. So yeah, how does that dovetail in with strategy? So obviously if I just run 5 Arsenal guys, I can't win a D1, right? Because somebody else will be running 5 Arsenal guys and they'll likely have better XP, so it's not hard to predict that there's going to be Arsenal stacks at home against Nottingham Forest. I mean, there will be people stacking at home in Nottingham Forest, particularly if Saka's fit. Be like Raya, Gabriel, Odegaard's back, so Odegaard, Saka, and then like Havertz, or some people maybe go with Saliba and Gabriel, or maybe some people will run like maybe one differential in there as well. But if you're going to go with 5 Arsenal guys, going in with 9-10% limited collections just now just doesn't really cut it. So yeah, I bought those guys pretty much for fun over Christmas. I think Arsenal have had some really tough fixtures and a lot of tough injuries, but you can see now with Odegaard coming back, etc., he makes them tick a wee bit, and that'll be pretty interesting. So from a strategy point of view, I think it's particularly important and limited. It doesn't really apply as much as Super Rare, which most people don't really play at all now. And in Rare, obviously, it's maybe slightly less relevant than Limited, but it still is pretty relevant because, if you think that, Arsenal are the best shout in season or classic or otherwise, then someone else will be thinking that probably. And if you've not got good XP, then you're probably better using a differential or two. That's the honest answer. So, you could do like Raya and Gabriel and then play a more offensive front three from an R team or an R couple of teams and just mix it up. Hope Arsenal get a bit of a boring draw or whatever, or they win 1-0 and they don't put up good AA scores and other people sort of smash those big scores. So that's the way I would look at lineup building. I do like playing a defender and goalkeeper sort of stack there. Interestingly, in terms of the calendar, got some stuff to discuss as well. So before we finish, we'll discuss that. Been off for a while. This is 38 minutes in now, but been lots to talk about. So if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations. Thanks for not falling asleep. Much appreciated. If you've got to this stage, please do like and subscribe. We're really kind of approaching 2,000 subscribers. Channel doesn't really actually make any money, so it's not all about that, but obviously the more people watch, the more it helps the channel. So in terms of pitch notes, particularly interesting. I mean, obviously there's been a bit of bad sentiment about it recently, which is probably an understatement. So in terms of pitch notes, firstly, good to see them back. I think it's important in terms of communication. Sorry, I'm running some surveys just now. They're looking to enhance gameplay, most importantly in classic mode format like that. I think obviously in season is pretty good, but they want to make the experience more engaging, make classic a bit better. It's definitely the mode that's struggling the most at the moment. Gameplay adjustments will mainly or will be in February and August, though you'd imagine that we'll get them communicated before February. So obviously, Sorare have said they'll give us enough notice to adapt, which is good. Improvements to player tiering, I think that's pretty important because people have got a lot of tiers over tiering, for want of a better word, and a lot of issues, and obviously I've been similar as well, getting Safanov super rare for 4th and Champion Super Rare, which I was pretty disappointed with. That's a really good tier. I mean, it's pinnacle competition, and you get a backup goalkeeper there really is pretty hard to take. So yeah, that sounds positive. They're going to look at it. Essence display improvements, that looks pretty good. You can see where you got your essence from and what your odds are of pulling things. Special events now out, so I'm going to come back to that. And also, apology for Sorare in terms of the gaps in their communication or how they communicated the essence changes. I do agree it was a nice touch and a bit more bang on for them to sort of issue that apology, because I think that's pretty accurate. And finally, on to the December calendar, because there have been lots happening. This is the longest video we've done for ages, actually. So, again, if you have managed to stay with me, much appreciated. So, last surprise with November, European Champions Specialist, 20,000 in cash rewards there. I do kind of like that. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing in Champions League having a champion specialist is pretty good. They'll definitely enjoy that with having some Celtic players mixed in there. And, Club Brugge got a pretty tough game, but, Celtic, again, even against Leipzig, did put up a couple of pretty high, scores, but it's not really like necessarily a stackable game or whatever in the Champions League. So it's good to add that in. I do like the specialist as well. There's no doubt about that. It's a good comp. I wonder why these things are getting dropped in more at the last minute. I don't know. It's just maybe just because I've seen it's been pretty effective. December's calendar, $50,000 classic competition. So that's the biggest cash special event in the month. So it's pretty huge. I think the only thing with that is with being an anti-stack and being a one entry, there'll be a significant amount of in-season cards there. So that's always the way of it with Classic, but bear in mind that people don't usually play their in-season cards in Classic because there's more cash, or there is cash in season. So that would be my only reservation about it, but it's definitely a good comp, and it's definitely a good message to send out to people in terms of focus on Classic. So in terms of the calendar, we've got a 3rd of December Specialist and All-Star. So it's that midweek. 6th to the 10th, we've got Cap 260 and Anti-Stacks. So we're getting kind of 2 specials per weekend or whatever now. I don't know. I mean, overall feedback-wise, I wonder whether it should be better to run an All-Star with a place for people to play their cards and just get the actual core stuff a bit better. But there we go. Anti-Stack Christmas Classics, really pretty good one. Player max, same team. No free entries, that type of thing. Just put out your best selection. I do think there'll be a significant amount of in-season cards in that as well. 10th, we've got European Champions in the season. We have European Champions Specialist, and we have European League and Conference. So yeah, I mean, I think the European Champions will cover in season and Classic, so they'll be 2 separate comps usually. Again, we've got All Star, so it's interesting that All Star always runs midweek but doesn't run at the weekend. I find that quite interesting. 13th, 17th, Ultra Offensive, which is a goalkeeper, a mid, and 3 forwards. Got Underdog running. Then we've got Conference Football right up to 17th. So European Conference, All Star. We've got the Secret Special, 20th, 24th, Cap 220, 24th, 27th, and All Star. Then we've got the Frozen Passer and the Community Vote. So there we go. There's some surprise specials, so I guess kind of hard to get excited about those until you see what they actually are. So it's kind of supposed to be a surprise. In terms of does it hit the mark, I mean, I can see why a lot of the cashes went into the Classic side of things, given the sentiment. If that helps people or whatever, or it makes people feel better, then that's really good, and it does show that Sorare kind of care. I think it's a bit disappointing overall, being Christmas and stuff. Like for me personally, the best point of Christmas is like actually over Christmas. Like everybody finishes up. You've got like the SPFL, you've got the EPL, You've even got Belgian games on Boxing Day this year. You've got that spell where like the darts and everything's on, so it's like, all everybody's focused on is like, yeah, Christmas is out the way. We're just gonna like have a couple more cans of beer. We're gonna eat some more food. We're gonna get fat. Oh yeah, darts on the telly. Oh, there's an English Premier League game on, and like even though it's like a midweek, you've always got at least one English Premier League game on and things. So it's like a kind of almost like a marketing period for the EPL, and like the managers and the players and everything hate it. So the schedule's too tight and all that sort of stuff. But it's all about like, there's no other leagues on at that point. I know I suggested Belgium on there, but La Liga takes a break. Bundesliga takes a break. All the other top five leagues or whatever take a break. In UK, we don't take a break. Play through Christmas, and it's a big thing about playing through Christmas. So that's where I think it misses the mark a wee bit. But obviously, I'm not in charge of the calendar. So that's the way it is. Before I get accused of any bias or wanting to do things that suit my own gallery, etc., I'll shut up there. But that's my feedback on it, and I think overall is what I would say is a lot of commitment towards classic there, which is really good. Shows the Sorare are listening, they are engaging with people. They do care, but there's still obviously a lot of things to develop on the game. But that's not what this video was about. Hope you enjoyed the preview. Any feedback's welcome. I know I don't do a lot of lineup building in these videos now, so maybe I should spend a bit more time doing those, but I'm trying to get them out nice and early for people so that the information's there, and I don't want to put in lineups that I'm not actually going to submit. So any feedback is welcome, and we'll end in customary fashion. That's been a long video. If you've got to this point, good luck and go fuck.